Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Home of Comics. This is Brayden back again for another X-Men 97 Season 2 review. We're on Episode 7, which is titled Strangeland Savage Heart. I definitely didn't do a first take where I messed up that title. But we're back again with the review. Let's see here. We got a lot of unpack. This is another episode that is very much standalone in nature. So you've got Colossus is sort of like the main focal point of this episode, which is interesting. We haven't really seen him at all. I don't remember how prominent he was in season one, if at all, but otherwise we haven't seen him since X Men the '90s show, which is pretty crazy because Colossus has been a part of the X Men movies. Like he's certainly not an unknown, but he lost his sister Ileana um, during the Genosha genocide. And that sort of informs his decision making throughout the course of this episode. He joins up this group called the Acolytes of Magneto, which are a new group stationed in the Savage Land that essentially are militant mutants dedicated towards Magneto's original cause, which was sort of just getting rid of all of humanity, claiming them not to be better than the mutants, and then attacking them and killing them. So they capture Brayden Creed, who is Sabretooth and Mystique's son, and he is just a he's just a human. He's born to two mutants, but he's a human, and he hates mutants because of what his father and mother did to him. And he's running for president. They capture him and they bring him over to the Savage Land. And the X Men's job this episode is essentially just to bring him back alive. And obviously, this has a lot of problems in that most of the people don't even really want to do this, but Nightcrawler is insistent on it. Obviously, Nightcrawler is the son of Mystique, so they're half siblings. Rogue is also the daughter of Mystique, so they're all half siblings. And so they kind of lead this mission from that perspective. Um, I really liked how it was a Nightcrawler focused episode as well. We have not seen a lot of Nightcrawler in this show at all, especially this season. I think that he is normally one of the most standout characters in the show. I feel like he does a really, really good job at bringing a lot of that like mutant compassion to life. We can see Charles Xavier's like mission through Nightcrawler's eyes, and Colossus throughout the course of his episode doesn't learn exactly the lesson that Nightcrawler is trying to teach. However, he does learn that the people that he sided with, the Acolytes of Magneto, led by Exodus, are insane. And I think that that is a good thing. Colossus ends up, at the end of this episode, having to deliver a verdict of whether or not Brayden Creed is guilty of the crimes that he committed. And he was going to say that he was guilty anyway. So he did not learn what Nightcrawler was trying to teach him, which was that Brayden Creed was a product of his environment, abused by both of his parents, that allows him to have this mentality that mutants are terrible, and he sort of generalized that to all mutants. Colossus didn't agree. However, it didn't matter because Exodus tried to kill him before he even gave off the verdict, believing him to say not guilty, which I thought was funny. How dare you act so quickly without even hearing the verdict in the first place? So Exodus dies to Brayden Creed because Creed's able to get his hands on a weapon. And Nightcrawler kind of takes him. He teleports him to the wintry like tundra, which is what kind of always happens to these villains if they if they double cross one of the X Men. They just teleport them to the snowy tundras, and just says essentially like, I don't even know if you're actually worth redeeming, but it's not up to me. It's up to God. Which Nightcrawler being a Christian, I don't know if he's a Catholic, but I know he's a Christian. Definitely gave off like that was good religious messaging too, right there. And Nightcrawler always and Daredevil, I think that they both sort of exemplify the correct morals of being religious and of being Catholic or being Christian. I think they are two superb role models for those of you who might be religious. Like I think those are the people that are probably best to follow. Which is hilarious that they're just fictional characters and we don't have as great of representation in real life. Nightcrawler essentially just says, yeah, like you will be tried by God. And the end of this episode takes us to what X-Force is doing. Of course, this is the group led by Cable. Jubilee's on this in this group. I believe Sunspot is as well. And there's a few other people whose names are either irrelevant or I just forgot. They come across Apocalypse's lair, I guess, and they notice that Gambit is alive because there's a burnt card and they see a dead Apocalypse. Now, I think that the dead Apocalypse is fake. I don't think that that's real, but I do. Obviously, we know Gambit is still alive. He's going to probably be essential for these next 2 episodes. So, just speaking about where this episode takes place within the rest of the series, I definitely think because it's standalone, it's not a full standalone. Obviously, it connects to things from the past, and it'll probably connect to things from the future. But it does feel like this show is trying to be longer than it actually is. I have the same issues with My Adventures of Superman, which is like the DC show that's running concurrent to this. But I do think that this show handles it in a much better way, in a way that is you're able to still consume these, individualized episodes without feeling like it's detracting from the main story. This is one of those episodes that I feel like is still doing that, where it is standalone, but it isn't detracting. However, it is probably the weakest episode of the season, not because of the themes that it portrays, but simply just because, unfortunately, I just feel like at this point in the season, it's just a little bit too late to have an episode that doesn't really have much to do with the main plot other than small, tiny things. And maybe Colossus will become super important. He ended up with the X-Men at the end of the episode. Maybe that matters. But I don't know how much it really will. So my thoughts on this episode are good, not great. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Uh, I'm very excited for the last 2 episodes of this show. I think that the show has been not as good as season 1, but definitely still good overall. And I cannot wait for season 3 and season 4, which they announced is in development at Comic Con. I do think that the show will continue for quite a few more seasons. I think it deserves to. It's definitely a great introduction to the X Men, regardless. So if this is your first kind of time watching them, I think that that's important to have this show as sort of that through line before Marvel does their big X Men movie in 2028. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below your thoughts on the episode, and I'll see you guys in the next X Men '97 Season 2 review. Peace.